Today on our program, we're making the world famous Anne's Cranberry Scones. First up, go ahead and grab a large mixing bowl and some flour. We're going to be measuring out our flour as usual. You will use your smaller measuring scoop to scoop into your larger measuring scoop. This way it ensures you end up with the same amount of flour each and every time. Adding in our baking powder is going to give our cranberry scones some lift. As well, the baking soda will incorporate some gas as it interacts with the buttermilk. Next, we're going to be using butter. This is cold butter straight out of the fridge. And we're going to be using a cheese grater. And the reason we're using cold butter is it will help to make your scones that much more flakier. And because this butter has salt in it, we don't need to incorporate any more later on. Now that we have our grated butter, we're going to be using 2 knives to do a cut-in method. A lot of recipes at this point will call for a food processor, but we don't have one. So we're just going to use 2 butter knives, almost like in a crisscross scissor motion. And we're going to cut our cold butter into our dry ingredients. Then you can switch to your hand, and basically you want to get it to a point where it's a fine crumble. At this point, we're going to add in our dried cranberries. You could also use raisins, blueberries, or chocolate chips. I just think the dried cranberries are a nice accent and are not overpowering. Next, let's add in our buttermilk. Because of its high lactic acid concentration, it's going to both give your scones a nice tang and interact with the baking soda to provide your scones with some additional rising power. Don't forget to continuously wipe down and clean your area. As we shape our scones, I like to use parchment paper and get a little flour on my hands so that it doesn't stick to my hands. After shaping this into a mound, I'm going to cut it in half so that I have 2 separate mounds to work with. I find that this makes scones just the right size. If you stick with one mound, they're going to be a little bit too large. I'm going to roll this out with a roller. If you don't have one, you could use a glass bottle or your hands. Sprinkling sugar on top just before baking adds a real nice mouthfeel and just a tad extra sweetness to your cranberry scones. As you cut your scones, one helpful tip is to give them a lot of space separate of each other. This way, as they're baking in the oven, they won't come together and make one giant scone. My oven bakes a little hot, so I'm doing mine for about 16 minutes. Yours could take at most 20 minutes or as little as 15 minutes. It's up to you to keep an eye on it. What you're seeing in the middle there is small amounts of flour, a little bit burnt, but take a look at the scones. They have nice color. Slight browning on top is what you're going for. Allow to cool on your pan for about 1 minute and then move to a cooling rack. And there you have it, Anne's famous cranberry scones. Enjoy with a cup of coffee or a cup of tea.